Join me in welcoming Wendy Lustbader as she addresses the topic, Changing the Culture of Aging in America.
I am a shy person in recovery. And what drives me to speak is always the same. It's something that I'm burning to say. And I have so much to say tonight. The hard part is cramming it into a small space. So first, I have to thank Nancy because she got me into this. And, into aging. Thank you. Not into this. And I actually found a letter you wrote me in 1979. Because I'm a pack rat. Yeah. An incredible letter saying, come to University of Washington and you can concentrate in aging and there is a scholarship. That was the key word. That's the key word. Okay. So my first job after graduation was in home care. And I went out to a woman's home. She was trapped there with her husband, who had had a massive stroke. And I had no idea how I was going to help her. I was told she was clinically depressed. And anyway, in the course of doing the assessment, which is really a conversation, she told me a piece of wisdom which changed the way I lived. And I'd like to read this to you. I got to collect what elders have taught me. Not all of it is wise, in this book called What's Worth Knowing. And so Betty said, make sure you go to Paris. She said, at age 76, I always wanted to go to Paris. Harry would say, wait till next year. Wait till the kids are done with college. Wait till after we get a new roof. Wait. That's all I ever heard. Then he went and had his stroke. Not a week after he retired. You'll always have plenty of reasons for putting things off. Waiting makes good sense at the time. But later you'll see things differently. Trust me. Within a few months, I booked a trip to Bali, Indonesia, because that was my dream. And I didn't have the money, but I did it. She really scared me. Was it 30 years later? 25 years later. One should read one's cue cards. 25 years later, in the summer of 2008, I went to Paris with my husband, and we spent 2 weeks there riding the subway and jumping out and looking at. Anyway, it was fun. But on the way there, we stopped. We had to change planes in Heathrow Airport. And there was a couple on their way back to San Francisco from Paris. And the gentleman there, he just gave me a list with great enthusiasm of all the things that I should do while we're there. Now, you're wondering how this all connects. If you'll all take out your handouts and turn to the very first, turn over the first page, you'll see an obituary. This man was the man I met in Heathrow Airport, and I found his obituary in the New York Times a year later. It turned out this man I met by chance at the airport was a fighter for environmental justice, a hero to many who died tragically on the vacation he took the following year. He had just told me that he was an environmental lawyer. That's all he said, and a few details hanging out with his wife. And then when I saw the obituary, I realized this was the couple. And I want you to know that an environmental justice movement, it's in the first paragraph, which holds that many minority neighborhoods have become toxic dumping grounds because their residents are poor and powerless. And I don't want you to read this whole thing while I'm talking, because you could read it later, so try to put it down if you can. But there's a story in here that I hope that you will cherish as you cherish the memory of this man. So he founded the Center on Race, Poverty, and the Environment. And here's the little story that's in his obituary. He went to the village of Kivalina, an Inuit village. Did I pronounce that right? Oh, great. And in that village was a corporation named Teck, T-E-C-K. And with great abandon to make good money, they were dumping into the river, which was the drinking water of that village, zinc and lead. And this man was the lawyer that forced that company to its knees and made them stop doing the dumping. So environmental justice. Now, why am I starting my talk with environmental justice? Because I propose that we look at 4 great social movements and then get to changing the culture of aging in America. And let's see what we can learn from these other movements. At the very end of the article, so it's there for you to read later, in the last paragraph, he was interviewed in the New York Times, 1998. And he said, the only way to ever decisively and permanently win these battles is through the political process. When a community organizes at the grassroots level, we can exercise our power, the power of the people. So keep that thought in mind from really one of the heroes. So we'll look at the civil rights movement, the disability justice movement, the nursing home reform movement, and then we get to culture change. And it will all interconnect. Now, if you'll turn the page, you will see one of my favorite documents in the history of human beings. And the most important legislation, in my view, that the United States ever passed. This is the Civil Rights Act, the first page, 1964. And I just want to point out it's too tiny for most of you to read. Even with bifocals, I couldn't begin to read it. But just a couple of the phrases in the preamble to the act. That courts should provide injunctive relief against discrimination and public accommodations. Let's just hang on to that one phrase. Now, I believe that the best way to teach is through telling stories. You don't see any PowerPoint. Because I think people remember stories. So here's a story that epitomizes where we're going with this little tour through other social justice movements. I was in Macon, Georgia in December of this past December. And the man who told me these 2 quick stories is very proud that I'm telling them to you. He gave me permission, but not to identify him. He doesn't want to be identified. When he was 14 years old, he grew up in Macon, Georgia. It was 1970, 6 years after the passage of the Civil Rights Act. African American, age 14, he and his family get the news his older brother was killed in Vietnam. His parents, they're just devastated. They can hardly breathe in the devastation of waiting for the coffin to be shipped to Macon. And they decide to go out for solace to the beauty of this state park. And when they got there, the man at the gate was waving at them to pull over. And he said to them, "Don't you realize it's Thursday? You people can't come here on Thursday." 6 years after the Civil Rights Act in Macon, Georgia, they still did not let people come to the park on certain days if they happened to be African American. So his grief-stricken parents were turned away at the gate of a place of solace. So it was in 1974, this same man, and now it's 10 years after the Civil Rights Act, And he goes to the train station in Macon, Georgia, because he's enlisted in the Army, because the war in Vietnam is over. He's not going to break his parents' hearts. And he's in the train station for the very first time, because he never had reason to go there. And chiseled in granite in the wall of the train station, he looked up because he was looking for the restroom before he got on the train, and it said, "White waiting room." And then the waiting room he was allowed to use 10 years after the Civil Rights Act. So it's not just legislation, but legislation is key. Leadership is hugely important, and we're going to look at the role of leaders when we look at a couple of other social movements. Yes, the written word really matters. I'm a writer. Books and essays are a lifeblood to me. The spoken word really matters. I do love to yak now that I'm in recovery. But above all, as I think you'll see, and I think all of you already know, a multiplicity of efforts on the grassroots. Individuals acting in concert. That's what changes the world. It's people on the ground doing what they believe and standing up for it. Person after person after person. So let's keep going on this little tour. I want to thank Ashley Thorpe. Is she here in the room, one of my students? Well, I like to publicly thank her because she told me about a really important person named Mia Mingus. I'll introduce you to her after you first turn the page to the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, another magnificent piece of legislation. Just look at finding number 5. Individuals with disabilities continually encounter various forms of discrimination, outright intentional exclusion, the discriminatory effects of architecture, transportation, communication barriers, overprotective rules and policies, on and on and on. But I want you to see segregation, relegation to lesser services, programs, benefits, jobs, opportunities. Okay. A lot of people never heard of this piece of legislation, which is so crucial to our society. And now you get to meet Mia Mingus, if you turn the page. She is now one of my heroes, and I just found out about her a couple of days ago. I'd like to just read to you in the middle of the paragraph where it says MM, where she's replying to the interviewer, just a couple sentences down. Disability is everywhere. Most people have a grandmother or an uncle or a cousin who's disabled. Most people are dealing with mental health or other people's mental health. Most people have survived violence and have consequences from that, whether it's physical injuries, scars, trauma on their psyches. People have disabled people in their lives, but they oftentimes haven't thought about it in a political way. Or they haven't thought about it in connection with other identities, like people of color or queerness. And here's the part I underline. A lot of the most groundbreaking and grounded work is done by people who didn't go to school for organizing. They're just people figuring out the crux of how we take care of each other. And now I just want to cut to like 4 sentences from the end. It's a movement, the disability rights movement, disability justice. It's a movement that comes out of something like 4 disabled friends figuring out, how are we going to go to the movies together when one of us can't take mass transit because it's not accessible? When one of us needs a personal assistant? When one of us has a service dog and one of us has severe depression or chronic fatigue? And here's her message that I think is so crucial. My work is trying to cultivate an environment where we believe in ourselves and each other enough to start doing the work. Now let me tell you where we're heading so you can get prepared. I am going to be asking this audience a question in a few minutes. Now, how can we have a conversation, intergenerational dialogue with so many people present? It's because when I ask this question, I'm going to ask you to just raise your hand and just give us a sentence so that we can sort of take the temperature of the room. Now you can turn the page. Actually, I'm watching the time. We're doing all right. Okay. Time for a story. Almost rushed by my cue card. This story bridges us to the next great social movement, which is the nursing home reform movement. So I went to a nursing home. Actually, I was working there, and I was kind of prowling about, as social workers sometimes do, spying on some of the situations I was trying to fix without having much power. And I saw something incredible. There was a woman there. She was only 46. She had a very aggressive form of MS. Thank goodness there's many different kinds, and most of the kinds, actually, you can live a good life with MS, but she had the kind where you cannot, and it is very difficult to live a good life. She had the kind with a lot of pain and very aggressively advancing disability. She was in an electric wheelchair that she operated partially with her chin, though she had some dexterity with her hands, but not that much. I had heard about her. They had horrible names for her, nicknames, because they said she was wicked. She was wicked to all the staff. She was a very unhappy person, very frustrated, and wasn't very pleasant to chat with. And I'll tell you what I witnessed in 1 second. It turns out that there was a volunteer person who used to deliver the mail to over 200 rooms in the nursing home. And that volunteer, who was an elder, died. And someone had the brilliant idea to offer to the woman with MS, would you like to become the mail delivery person in the nursing home? She loved it. In fact, I got to see her doing it. And I pretended I was doing something else, and I followed her down the hallway. And I witnessed something extraordinary. She would motor herself into someone's room, someone very frail, maybe someone bedbound, and the OT had made her an incredible, accessible bag in which the mail was, with a special letter opener. And she would somehow get the envelope open for people who could not open the mail. And she would read to people who couldn't read their mail. She would hold the letter with her trembling hand for people who had no dexterity. I could not believe this woman. She was like Mother Teresa. And then I heard that to staff, she was still wicked. But she lived a life that suddenly had meaning and purpose. So one of the biggest omissions in the care of younger people with disabilities and older people who become frail is, what about purpose and meaning? What about the needs of the spirit? So I've always thought the disability rights movement and the elder rights movement should join hands together. Because for both populations of people, what do we have? We have a situation which we call community-based services, and then what? Institutions? And we take this for granted, the distinction between home, community-based and institutional-based. What a terrible distinction. Oh, is she living in the community? And if she's not in the community, where is she? Where has she gone? Mia Mingus said in an interview that's on YouTube, and it's worth, you guys know how to do that. Google around, you'll find it. And in this interview, she says, actually, disability is the one form of oppression that we all can one day, experience. Interesting. Someone here at the School of Social Work, I went to school with her, and she had a disability from birth. And she said, "We have a name for you people. You're a bunch of tabbies, temporarily able-bodied." And that really woke me up. So if you turn the page over to the next one, the Nursing Home Reform Act, which is called OBRA 87. And all I want you to see at the top of it, though I want you to note that Ronald Reagan signed it. What? Did he forget? Oh, no, I'm sorry, thank you. He was getting old. That was good. So life was getting better. Thank you.
Looking out for his future.
Looking out for his future, thank you. The first one is emphasis on a resident's quality of life as well as quality of care. Well, if you go to any nursing home today, you're going to see the Resident's Bill of Rights posted in the elevator. I love riding the elevators in nursing homes because I love reading the Bill of Rights. Now, here's what I want to tell you about that. How did the Nursing Home Reform Act get passed? Now we'll look at leadership. Elma Holder. She has worked tirelessly, is not even the right word. Her entire life has been devoted to the rights of frail people who become captive in nursing homes. And if you Google her, you'll see she received the Heinz Public Service Award. And just reading about what she did, I came to a really important point. The year before it became the law of the land, do you know what Elma did? And I can picture it because I know her. She got a coalition together of 50 active groups that were interested in the rights of elders who lived in captivity, and 200 interested organizations. And she marshaled this such that it made it into law in 1987. Okay. This is going well. We're okay in the time. I can't tell you my relief. When you write a new speech, you never know if you can get through it. We're going to get through this. We're almost at the point where you get to say something, so hang in there. Okay. Now I want to confess something. I'm going to air some dirty linen because we're now at the point in the history of this next movement, which is the movement for culture change. I just want to give you some background. And, well, first I'll tell you the happy part. A group of people in 1997 got together in Rochester, New York. Just like Margaret Mead says, you can get 50 people together in a room or a small group, and you can change the world. And in that room was Elma Holder, Sarah Greenberger, another big activist, Bill and Judy Thomas. Some of you have heard of Dr. Bill Thomas, Barry and Debbie Barkin. I'm reading just two more key names. They're known as the founders. Joanne Rader, a wonderful nurse in Oregon, and Charlene Boyd, who, you see Providence Mount St. Vincent right here in Seattle is one of the organizations that helped founded this national movement. So here's what I want to tell you. Carter Catlett Williams, we call her the convener because she convened this group of people in a room. For 3 days, they sat there and argued and talked. They were passionate. And they came up with something extremely special, which you have, if you turn the next page. Look down at the values and principles. They realized that even though they had extremely diverse ideas about how to make nursing homes places where you would be proud to live or work, very diverse ideas about how to get there, they decided to try to write down what they agreed with. And thus were born the values and principles. I consider these really in the realm of the sacred because they give us a clear direction. Know each person. Each person can and does make a difference. The fourth one down is my favorite. Respond to spirit as well as mind and body. On and on. Okay. It was a joyous result. Then the group came to Seattle for meeting number 2, and I volunteered to facilitate. It was one of the worst experiences of my life. I thought when all these other people, I think it was about 100 people, were gathered together, maybe it was 80 people in a gigantic circle, I thought that everybody was going to work together in a spirit of, I don't know what's the word for it, just of the goal of what we were after. And this horrible fighting broke out. Big egos were yelling at other big egos. People went crying from the room. Some of my heroes ran from the room crying. I had never experienced such a brawl. People attacked each other for differences of opinion. I was the facilitator, but I couldn't, just jump on top of people that were being rude or mean or thoughtless. It was just the most amazing thing I ever saw. And what happened was, by the way, this has happened in every important social change movement. There have been divisions at the top. There were terrible things that broke out in the civil rights movement. Read the history. Think about how Malcolm X got along with Martin Luther King. Not at all. And, it was really, all social movements are difficult, but I guess I needed a firsthand lesson. Carter Catlett Williams tried to calm me down and keep me involved because I wanted to walk away. She said, Wendy, it's always like this. Social movements are difficult. Don't be discouraged. And now I want to thank Bonnie Schultz, who's not here tonight. She is working in the palliative care movement, and she's faculty here at the school. And she quotes a Zen master who said, there is aggression in social justice movements. And that is a very helpful quote. And so I've been to every meeting since, and it's been a number of years now, since 1998. And here's what I take away from it. That we all have to learn how to be in service to the cause, not to one's own need to be heard, recognized, and affirmed. Really, people should take that pledge at the door. That it's very dangerous to ever think you have the answer. There are many routes to social justice, and we need them all. There is no single answer to how to change the culture of aging in America. You have to be careful about becoming zealous if that means no longer hearing what others are saying. And we now have the saying in the movement, be careful about becoming a culture change fascist. So one thing that's happening in the movement right now is some nursing homes are quote unquote doing it. And a visitor from our movement goes to see the nursing home that's supposed to be doing it and then finds all kinds of fault, runs back and says they're not doing it. And it's just unbelievable. I think that's culture change fascism, because what you need to look at is what's the effort that's being made. And maybe they've gone as far as they can. Now let me pull this to the next piece. Look at this mess I made. Oh, there they are. Thank you. You're a good guy in the front row. I often lose my index cards. He just points. You knew what the problem was. Okay, very good. Happens to me all. Oh, very good. By the way, I did fall recently, exactly a week ago tonight. And I fell. I catapulted off a steep slope on Vashon Island where I live. And I can't believe that I'm here to talk about it and that I can walk. And I am Very happy to be here, yes, indeed. My grandchildren said last night, Grandma, you have to explain the bruise. It's very funny looking. I said, thanks, girls. Thank you. Give me confidence. Okay. So I'm going to give you an image of the Pioneer Network for Culture Change and what the culture change movement is about in a snapshot. It's basically a civil rights movement for people who become frail. So here's the image. Had I made myself a paraplegic, which was a very good chance while I fell, and was in a nursing home this week, starting my new life, why can't I wake up when I want to, go to sleep when I want to, eat when I want to, eat what I want to eat? Like, I'm pre-diabetic, but if I want that brownie, it's none of your business. Can I have a glass of wine with a friend across the hall? Why not? And if I want to visit somebody on another floor, what business is it of yours? Can't I stay up late reading? Well, if I work it out with my roommate, is it any of your business when I go to sleep? So this is a radical idea to change the culture of what goes on in nursing homes. So there was a huge fight that broke out at one of our later meetings, and it went like this. We can't change the culture of nursing homes unless we change the culture of aging itself. And half the people in the room said, but we can't change the culture of aging. How? That is too ambitious a goal. And then the other side yelled, but you're never going to get anywhere with this movement because it's all affected by the culture around it. Indeed, here it is. You might say it's your value. As staff are treated, so will be the residents, right? So we got to treat people well. But check this out. People at the bottom of the healthcare pyramid, nursing assistants, CNAs, in all research that's done, are the people who make the greatest impact on the lives of elders and younger disabled people, right? So they make the least money, they get the least respect, they get the least pay, they have the worst working conditions, and they have the greatest impact. So why has the culture change movement, in some people's views, stalled? Why are only 5% of nursing homes in the country really doing it? So that's an estimate. Some of our thinkers in the movement have said, because it's a social justice issue. If you don't treat the workers with dignity, if the workers can't live a quality life, if they have to work double shifts to be able to eat and pay their rent and send their children to school in decent clothes, what are you doing? You're never going to change the culture of aging unless you change the power relationships in society. So some of us in the room just sat there, feeling kind of depressed. I'm sorry, I'm throwing a lot at you quickly because it's the only way to get to where we're going. So tonight, sitting in the room with us, I don't mean to embarrass you, but I was going to have this in the talk before I knew she was going to be here. So Kathleen Woodward is from the Simpson Center for the Humanities here at University of Washington, and I have so admired her work and never met her till tonight. And I told her, I didn't just stick this in here because I saw you in the RSVP list. I could just stand up here and read the entire essay to you, but I'll tell you this essay, which you do not have, you just Google her name, Kathleen Woodward, and she has posted, you've posted your essays so that anybody can grab them on the internet, and I made full use of that privilege. And it's impossible to summarize this marvelous essay, but I'll make 2 points about it. First, she talks about the notion of a scandalous public secret of everyday life. And she quotes someone named Sharon Daniel, quote, "There are secrets that are kept from the public, and then there are public secrets. secrets that the public chooses to keep safe from itself. The public secret is an irresolvable internal contradiction between inside and outside, power and knowledge. And one of the public secrets she exposes in the essay, quote, "The denial of the scandalous isolation of old people in our societies is a public secret, one the public chooses to keep from itself." But to me, the most dynamite part of this essay it's called The Public Secret, isn't it? Yes. Oh, phew. Forgot to write that down. I'm going to read near the end what she wrote. Because she's asking, how do we do this? How basically can we change the culture of aging in America? In essence, she's asking that. She says, we need to create a capacious archive of feelings, a storehouse of stories that will have a cascading effect on individuals, families, communities, and policymakers. I just jumped up. I was at my house on Vashon and I went, she's advocating stories. I can't tell you how happy I was. But an archive, she writes, implies something out of the public eye. How can we as scholars insert ourselves into the circuitry of debate? How can we help influence the values that guide public policy? How can we make our research and scholarship live in larger publics? Beautiful question. As scholars and researchers in aging studies, we need to move beyond the closed professional circles of academic knowledge. Yes. We need to make clear the intersection between the fresh work being done in our fields and the public interest and the public good. We have Doctors Without Borders. We need scholars without borders in age studies. Scholars who understand that it's important not just to think globally and act locally, but also to think locally and act globally. And who will call attention to the public secret of caregivers and frail elders. And what she names in this essay is how many people of color are taking care of white people in this country. She names it in print. And many of these women have come from places like the Philippines and other places where they can come and be caregivers. And this is not just about the United States, but this is a global issue. So it's an important essay to read where the public secret is outed. And can we acknowledge her, please, thank you so much. So you have actually emboldened me, and that's why I couldn't believe you were coming to this, because I was going to blame you for this. No, there's a big controversy going on in academia in our field, the field of aging. And this is being called the dueling journals. Because one was published by Generations a few months ago, Person-Centered Care for People with Dementia, taking the person-centered care movement and applying it to dementia. Mm-hmm. So person-centered care is another name for culture change, right? And the Gerontologist, our very esteemed journal, which has Carter Williams on the cover with her daughter and granddaughters. This would have made a nice PowerPoint. I apologize for that. But these articles take issue with culture change. They take issue with the concept. They're calling it sloppy. They're calling it very difficult to measure. And if it's difficult to measure and it's squishy definitionally, therefore, it's not a valid concept. I couldn't get past the first essay. I was on the post office line in Greenwood, and I got so agitated I almost missed my turn. So I'm about to ask you a question, but I'm going to end this first part by saying, since when should we let the parameters of measurement, should we say that which we can measure is therefore that which is of value? Shouldn't we define what is of value and figure out how to measure it? And why are we doing it backwards? That we need a new paradigm for how we can get to things like the needs of the spirit. So because you can't measure spiritual things, does it mean they're not important? Maybe they're the very center of changing the culture of frailty when you have to count on other people's kindness at any age. So here's the question for which all of this preamble was leading up. I'm going to be asking you, and just give a sentence or a phrase or even a word. I'm going to ask you the miracle question. If there was a miracle overnight tonight, and you woke up tomorrow, and the culture of aging in America had been transformed, what would be different? Now, to get your juices flowing, I brought with me a battered document, which was given to me by my practicum instructor, Marty Richards, at the end of my practicum. And this was written by Barry Barkin, the founder of Live Oak Community, one of the people you might remember who was at the original gathering of the movement. He was sitting under an oak tree one day, and it came to him, the definition of an elder. And you can Google this, and it comes right up. An elder is a person who's still growing, still a learner, still with potential, whose life continues to have within it the promise for and connection to the future. An elder is still in pursuit of happiness, joy, pleasure. And his or her birthright to these remains intact. Moreover, an elder is a person who deserves respect and honor, and whose work it is to synthesize wisdom from long life experience and formulate this into a legacy for future generations. Okay, you wake up tomorrow and the culture of aging has changed. What's something that would be different? Please just raise your hand and then I'll repeat it for the whole group. I won't run over with the mic. Way in the back? Thank you. Meaningful things to do.
Media representation of elders.
Yes, the media representation is terrible. Thank you. What else would be different tomorrow? Thank you. Insurance coverage for staying home. Guess what everybody wants? To stay home. Where are the public dollars going? To nursing homes. This has to be fixed. Thank you. There was someone over here. Yes? No shame with physical or cognitive changes, especially cognitive changes, where there is so much shaming going on. There's a magnificent program coming up called Momentia, and it's going to be held at the Taproot Theater. And we have the founder of this sub-movement of the movement right here, Mary Grace Becker. Would you stand up? I want people to see who you are. And I hope you'll talk to her during the reception. I saw some more hands. Yes.
50 or 65-year-olds when laid off could find work.
Oh, yes. If everyone could find work, no matter how old they were, when they decided to try something new, instead of what is very well documented, age discrimination in this country is disgraceful. I have several friends who are clinically depressed right now because they cannot find work, and they are only in their mid-50s, and the discrimination is awful. Please.
Earlier intergenerational start of the conversation about aging.
Thank you. Early intergenerational start to the conversation. In fact, we should be speaking across generations about all of this, and it should be a continual creative dialogue. Thank you. I'll get to you.
Families living together in intergenerational groups.
Now, more and more families are living together out of economic need. But what about living together because it's wonderful to have an elder in the house with you? Thank you.
Just experiential knowledge, the value of life experiences.
And that elders I'm going to say ourselves because I'll be 60 in just a few weeks. Elders ourselves, we should feel proud of what we know from life experience. One should be proud to say, I'm turning 60 in April, right? One should be proud to say, I am finally an elder, hooray. My husband always said, Wendy, it would be a shame if you died before you got to be an old lady. Since I've had many mishaps, yeah.
Since I'm 93, I would say, and we're really thinking outside the box, we'd have no more nuclear families, but extended families, where each family cares for its own.
Thank you. That was beautiful. You brought tears to my eyes. I'm sorry?
That's thinking outside the box.
It is. Many boxes, actually. Thank you very much. Nice and loud and blue. Well-paid home care workers. The group of Haitian women who took care of my uncle who died last year. He was a survivor of the Holocaust, and his dementia got so bad, it was very difficult to take care of him at home. But my cousin found 2 Haitian women, neither of whom was documented, so they had to do this dance where one of them would take care of him for 6 months and then the other one would go back to Haiti, and they did this dance. And the love and care that they gave to my uncle was extraordinary. And otherwise my family would have had to, quote unquote, put him in a nursing home. But having been in Auschwitz, yeah, how do you put him somewhere? And it was those 2 women. And at his memorial, I just, and the women loved him. They loved him. So that gets back to your essay there. Some more ideas. Yes?
Wake up tomorrow with a big billboard or people wearing shirts, aging happens.
Oh, beautiful. I love this think tank. Let's take a few more. I'm going to run over here. Yes? I'll get to you.
I hope there will be more encouraging for new grad nurses going into nursing home or like aging generation. Like, because I didn't know too much about for nursing new grad, how can we get involved, because not many people doing it.
Thank you so much. First of all, where are the nurse colleagues here tonight? So glad we have nurses in the room who have been my best teachers as far as understanding the aging body. So how do we inspire the next generation of nurses and social workers and physicians to get excited about serving elders? Well, that would be what we would see tomorrow morning if we woke up. Pay them $20 at least an hour. Thank you. In the interest of time, what I'm going to do, because time's running out, I'm going to start going into my long conclusion. How are we going to get there? How are we going to get to this vision? That is the question. So I'm going to throw out to you some very hopeful pieces of the puzzle of how we can change the culture of aging in America. One piece is language. Let us all get rid of the concept and the word, the elderly. If you hear anyone say it, very respectfully say to them, excuse me, the elderly, no one is in that group. There's nobody who says, I'm one of the elderly. And I'm just suggesting, and I'm not alone in this, that we just go ahead and use the word elder, because it's a word you can say with pride. I am an elder. Has a whole different feeling than, oh, you're becoming one of the elderly. Wonderful. Media representation, but also watch yourself. When you see 2 elders walking hand in hand down the street, don't turn to your friend and say, that's so cute. You might be thinking it and the words are trying to come out. Stop yourself. I was on like Como or Cairo, I don't know, one of the TV things, And I brought them 3 generations of beautiful women to put on TV. And we were talking about aging together. And the interviewer was very warm. And I was really glad I did all the work to make this happen. And right at the end of the interview with the beautiful 88-year-old elder, the woman leans over and says, "Oh, thank you so much. You're just so cute." And I just deflated like a balloon. So much for media appearances. Everyone in the room, let's model this. When someone is in a wheelchair and the caregiver is helping wheel that person into the clinic, never, I repeat, never speak to the caregiver before you speak to the person in the wheelchair. I've done it. You're busy. You got a lot of work to do. Maybe you know the person in the wheelchair has dementia. No excuse. Dignity remains with us to the moment that we leave this earth and must be respected. So you take the time to greet the person with dementia and recognize their personhood, their adult dignity, and then you speak to the caregiver, and never about them, but with them. What if we all did that? And what if we all modeled it to the people that maybe get into this work because of the scholarship? Well, that's good. But then we have to show them how to do it and get people excited. I'm going to run through a bunch of things, and then I'm going to give you another chance to speak. What I'm so excited about in this Momentia business, the reason I have this here with me, is because one of the ways we can change the culture of aging is by changing the culture of how we speak about and relate to persons with dementia. And one of the workshops I've been asked to do only a few times, but it's called The Heart Wide Open, and it looks at the positive aspects of having dementia and loved ones who suddenly are more loving and expressive than they've ever been in their lives because dementia removes some of their reticence or shyness or even coldness. So I'll just give you a quick story. This man was visiting his wife in the nursing home, and all their lives together, she had been rather removed, and the dementia worsened to the point where he said, "Wendy, she's like a little girl when I go there. It's really strange, and she thinks I'm her dad." And I said, "Well, then go ahead and hold her like a dad would. Put your arm around her." And he said, "Well, she's not like that." I said, "Maybe she wasn't like that." And he began going to the nursing home and holding her, and she was cuddling with him like she never had in all their years together. The next visit, he comes to me, he says, "Could I get into the bed?" I said, "Yeah, just negotiate with the roommate. Then you could lay down in the bed and really hold her and cuddle her." He goes, "I'm really embarrassed." I go, "What's the matter?" He goes, "This is the best it's ever been between us. And I'm just embarrassed." I said, "Just love her. Just go and love her." The dementia was a gift to her because of all the pain she went through as a child where she got closed in. That's just one example. So it's Tuesday, March 11th, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Taproot Theater. Mary Grace Becker is going to show you more on this subject. I want to mention Nora Gibson, who's here in the room. Nora, just to humiliate you, do you mind standing up so people can see who you are? Nora is one of my heroes. Let me just tell you something. This is the stuff of hope. This is how culture change proceeds. Nora had a dream that not just running what used to be called Elder Health, an adult day center, and not just turning it into full life, a place where people of all ages are actually served. And I went to one of her traumatic brain injury groups, and there were people of all ages there, and it was really quite wonderful. So Nora's got all this creative stuff going on, but is it called Buchanan Place? Is that the name of? Okay, it's the Buchanan. That's the one I want to talk about. So in this house. Nora's dream that there could be an actual house where elders could live and the caregivers would come and visit and give care as needed. But it would be a regular house, not home-like, but an actual house. Why couldn't it be? And this place exists. And it's magnificent. There's a big dining room table where people hang out and talk, and the staff have very close relationships with the elders. And there's none of that demeaning of staff. The staff are so happy to work there. But my favorite is the story that Nora tells. Now, she raised the money for it. She worried about it. She got it built. She feels some ownership, right, of the place? So she gets there, and she just walks right in. And what did that person say to you, Nora? I just have to give you the mic.
She said, "What kind of mother did you have? That you walk into a house without knocking on the door?" And this woman, by the way, was the foster mother for Jimi Hendrix, so we all owe a lot to her. But she was, and I said, "Well, but I'm the executive director. I built this place." And she said, "That's no excuse for being rude."
So much. That's culture change. I want to tell you about something totally thrilling coming to Seattle. It's the Second Wind Tour. It's Monday, April 14th at Town Hall. In the Great Hall, there will be a magnificent gathering. Now, it's unusual. Dr. Bill Thomas is leading the tour, and he's just publishing a book called Second Wind. And Second Wind is about, here's what it says on the PR, but it's what it's about. Living a slower, deeper, and more connected life. Looking at what we know by the time we're 50, and how do we we figure out how to live after a number of decades, and how can we take that knowledge and change the culture, not just of aging, but the culture. Interesting. Second Wind. This is an invitation-only event. You can't buy tickets. So how do you get invited? Just go to Second Wind Tour, the website, and request an invitation. That's how you get invited. And if anybody wants to write a blog post, maybe something that you're thinking about tonight, just go to changingaging.org, write a blog post, and you get a ticket. The first 50 people to write a blog post get a ticket. That's going to be a very dynamic and exciting evening. Two more things to tell you, and then I'm going to go into my ending. The vision of Saging International. This was a group started by Rabbi Zalman Schachter Shalomi. He is a charismatic leader. He is still alive. He's very frail. And this organization is magnificent. And here's the vision. This is an organization that helps elders reclaim their role as leaders, sharing wisdom and spirit essential to creating a better world for current and future generations. And they recently recommitted to the hard work of culture change by another name. And they say we have to stand up for spirituality, meaning-making, learning, serving, and creating community. Beautiful vision. So there are many roads leading to the same place. So I'm proud to tell you, August 21st through 24th, the National Saging Conference is coming here to Seattle University. So you go to Saging, SAGE-ING. And the last resource list I want to give you, I hope to excite you. We have a Washington Pioneer Network. So in the state of Washington, we have a branch of the National Pioneer Network. We're a very fledgling little group, and we would love you to join us. And is Lindsay here? I guess not tonight. But Full Life Care has very generously hosted us there. And you can go to Washington Pioneer Network on the web, and you'll come to our site. we have someone here representing the Village Movement. How many of you have heard of that? This is so exciting around the country. Neighborhoods are organizing so that elders can receive help from each other in the neighborhood, and it's intergenerational. Younger people can help each other. And where is our Nest representative? Where are you? Where are you sitting? Oh, do you mind standing up here? So, do you have information you could give to people who are interested? Okay. NestSeattle.org. Nest stands for Northeast Seattle Together. Northeast Seattle Together. So Debbie Anderson, and let's recognize her, another one of the people in the trenches for all of her adult life, practically. Two more things. Northwest Center for Creative Aging is right here. And that's northwestcreativeaging.org. Wonderful workshops. And finally, the Center for Excellence that we are convening tonight. We are hoping that you will join with us. We're going to reach out to vulnerable communities. We do not want this to be something that's just sitting at the university. Again, back to that vision. We want to take what scholarship produces and good debates produce and really make it real in the world. So we hope that you'll join us. So here's my ending. Somehow my water got filled. How did that happen? Thank you, Amy. So I always like to end with a story, and it's hard to pick a story. I want to mention you have my essay there. I'm not allowed to put that on the internet. It just came out. It's called It All Depends on What You Mean by Home. And I've just stuck my neck out in a big way. And some people are going to be very mad at me because I basically criticize almost all the options for elders that are out there, like different kinds of senior housing and different kinds of retirement communities. Because it turns out most people don't want to move into those places. And I just thought it was time to just say it. So that's that. I know I'm never going to be invited back to certain places. Well, okay. So my personal belief is in the power of kindness. And that what matters to us most when we become frail, vulnerable, ill, is the kindness of the hands that touch us. And maybe that's why I'm kind of a closet nurse. I've always been a closet nurse. And some of my favorite people are nurses who are also social workers and vice versa. It's really great to clone the two. But the power of kindness is immense and perhaps immeasurable. And I would like to say the key things are to be able to contribute to the lives of others. So you're not just one who receives kindness, but you get to be a giver. So if I woke up tomorrow and the culture of aging had changed, every person who is ill and needing to count on kindness would also get to give it, which is what makes people feel secure and retain dignity. That everyone should feel that their continuing to be alive matters to someone else. Because our greatest dread is not of death, it's of being a burden. And you're only a burden if you feel like all that your life is worth, it's hardly worth what other people have to sacrifice to take care of you. So we have to address that in every setting and every place where elders live. And we have to make sure that elders have access to that which feeds the spirit, no matter where and how someone lives. So I want to end with my dearest friend from many years ago. She was born in 1883. She died in 1984 at 101. She lived in a nursing home, and people thought it was a relationship of charity, and it was not. I was in my 20s, and she was in her hundreds, and I loved her. She loved me. We were deep friends. We just had a bit of an age gap. And I decided to end this book with what she said. She said, all that matters in the end is that you are loved. Edna Whitman Chittick. You spend half your life worrying about things that won't concern you in the slightest at the end. When you're lying in bed dying, you want people to sit by your side. That's it. It's easy to get tricked by dreams of money and success, but all the money in the world doesn't buy you kindness. You get that because you gave it. Thank you so much. Thank you for caring about elders. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. We're going to change the culture of aging, yeah?